Hi, this is the National Master Alessandro Santagati. It's the video number 5 about the Goring Gambit series. The Goring is a very nice opening against e5. We play d4, e takes d, knight f3, Nc6. This game is called also Scotch, and when we play c3 we can call it or Goring or Scotch Gambit. In the first videos we focused attention about this move, d takes c3. So if you want to know how to play against this line, you can see the first videos about the series. Today we focus attention about the move d5. d5 is very common, especially if you play against a strong player. Usually the black choose this option. The idea is refuse the gambit and play against the isolated pawn on d4. In this line, is wrong push e5. Why is wrong? Because if you push, the black can simply take now, and when you take on c3 with the knight, you don't have this diagonal, and without this diagonal, the sacrifice of the pawn is wrong. The diagonal is blocked, so now is not a good idea. We can go back. So when we have this position, we must take on d5. The queen has to take, and now we can take on d4 with the pawn. So the black idea is make pressure against the pawn d4, the isolated pawn on the d file. Now after this move, the black can play bishop g4. We can play simply bishop e2. It's not possible for black take the pawn, because if this, you can simply take and the pawn is poisoned, because if the black takes, you can simply play this is check, and you can take the queen on the next move. So the black is the queen. So in this position, it's not a good idea to take the pawn, and the black can play or knight f6, or bishop b4 check, or castle. I think for white, is okay if the black castle, because after this move I think the white will have an easy game. It's playable, but it's not so strong for black. In this case, the problem is the pressure against d4. So now we can simply play knight c3, the knight is attacking the queen. If bishop b4 to pin, we can simply play castle. And the trade now on c3 is not good, because now the white has the b file open, and the white can have a good attack against the king in the queen side. So this position is not good for black. After after castle, another option could be queen a5. And now we can simply ignore the attack against c3, and we can simply play bishop e3. Because after bishop e3, we can defend d4, and if the black will take the pawn in this way, now the white has a very strong attack with rook c1. The queen is forced to go away, so for example queen to a3, and now very nice sacrifice on c6. We can sacrifice the exchange, the black has to take, knight e5, the bishop is under attack, so bishop takes e2 is possible, queen takes e2, and now the position is very bad, because the white can bring the rook on b1, the queen to g4, the knight to c6, so the white has a very strong compensation for the exchange. We can do an example about the black can do. For example, we can imagine if the black tried to move the queen back. Now there is mate, because there is queen a6 check and rook b1 checkmate. So this move is wrong. So the queen has to stay here to defend a6. So probably the black has to move the knight. And now we can simply play knight takes f7, and we can retake the exchange. What happened if the black tried to defend the exchange? So for example, rook f8. Now I think mate again, because I can play rook b1 to block the king. and if knight f6, now I can play rook to b3, and when the queen go back, we can play again queen a6 check, and the black position now is very bad because the king is bad on d8, the bishop can attack the queen, it's impossible to take the pawn because there is rook d3, so the position is very bad now for black. So I think it's impossible for black defend the square f7, because if the black will defend the square f7, the white can play for the mate, and if the black doesn't defend it and play, for example, knight d7 to develop the pieces, I can simply take on f7, I retake this change for example, if this move, I take on d8, and or maybe the black now has to take with the king, because if rook takes, I have the move bishop g5, and now I can make pressure against this. And the rook e1, and now if knight g6, I have queen e8 and I win the rook. So yeah, it's dangerous, because when I take, the black has to take with the king, and in this position the white is very good because it can make pressure. We can say easily that the white has the same material but with a very strong position. So it's clear that now the white is very, very good. Okay, we can go back. So we know that if bishop b4, we can simply play castle, and if queen a5, we can ignore the attack against c3. So it's not important for me. I can simply play bishop e3. Now we know bishop takes c3 is wrong. Okay, so the problem is what to do. I think knight f6. I played recently a game in which my opponent played f6. This move is wrong because it's not a threat knight e5 or knight g5. So if you play knight f6 is okay, because if I play knight g5, for example, you can simply trade, and there is knight exd4 now, for example, and if I take with the knight, the black can simply defend the square f7. I think also with the queen d5, for example. So this attack is not strong for white. So knight g5 is not a problem. So now it's better play knight f6, and in this kind of position, it's very interesting play to make pressure on the queen side. So I think that you can play rook c1. We can spend a word about knight b5. It seems interesting, but after this and this, the black can play knight d5, and there isn't a strong attack against the queen, because the black can take on e3, and then the bishop can go on d2. Okay, we can see what happened. If the bishop go to e7, the white is better, because after b4, queen has to go to b6, and the queen is blocked on this side. The white can have a good attack, but the key move is bishop d2. And after that, the black is better. So now knight b5, so bishop e3 and knight f6. Now knight b5 is not good for this reason, because it's possible bishop d2. But if bishop d2 is not possible, knight b5 could be a nice move. For example, recently I played a game in which I played the black played f6. I played h3 now, and after bishop e6 I played knight b5. Now knight b5 is strong because my simple idea is trap the queen. And for example, in the game we played this move, I played a3, he played this, I took with the pawn because I have to defend the knight. And after bishop e7 I play b4, and now the black has to choose or lose the queen or lose a piece. So the black has to sacrifice on b4, and after that the white has a winning position. So knight b5 can be an idea, but we must check if it's possible to play it or not. So for example, I play bishop e3, knight f6. Now it's not possible now knight b5 immediately, but if I play h3, that can be a nice move for white, and the black play knight h5, I must check if it's possible again this move. Probably not, because there is again the move knight d5, the idea knight takes on bishop d2. So again we can move this. So if it's not possible knight b5. Another option could be play a3, for example. The idea about a3 is sacrifice the pawn, because we can play rook c1, and if queen takes a3, we can try to attack again with this move. The attack is nice, but we must play with attention. So it's important now for black trade on c3, because if the bishop go back, again the white can play very, very well, because I can play or b4 immediately or g4, because the idea about b4 is that the only square is f5, and to f5 I can play the fork. So, but we can see what happens. Or maybe it doesn't work because there is the sacrifice. Okay, maybe it's better play before g4. The bishop, if the bishop go back b4, and now the white is winning, because the black has to sacrifice, and yeah, so before g4, and after that the move b4. So if the black sacrifice now is different, because we can take, and I think we can defend the position with bishop b5. This move is very nice, because the idea is avoid that the black queen can go in the king side to attack my king. So bishop b5 is a very nice move now. Okay, so this idea is very interesting. So if queen a5, we can play bishop e3, and the black has to take, or sorry, if bishop e3, the black has to play knight f6, and now the white has to play h3, and the bishop h5. Now it's interesting to see what happens if g4, bishop g6, and now knight b5 again. Very nice option, because it's not easy to understand what the black can do. Maybe again knight e5, now a3, and now probably if this move, now I take, and bishop d2 is not possible, because now there is the knight that can take it. So the bishop has to go back, so for example e7, and now I have the move b4, queen b6, and again the white can have a good attack, because the queen is blocked on the queen side. I can try to attack in the c5, I can try to attack with this move. So the white position is nice now. It can be an idea. Okay, so about this position, it's important to know these ideas. In theory, the general idea for white is attack on the queen side, and to attack on the queen side, I can think is to stop the queen, is to weaken the queen side, the castle, the long castle of black. So these ideas are very important to have a good attack on the queen side. Okay, but can you do a question? For example, what happens if the queen go to h5? In this case, h3 immediately, because if take, I simply take, and then I can take on c6. Oh, sorry, I can take on c6. Because if queen h4, I can simply take it, and if queen g6, I can play bishop to e3. Now it's not a good idea take, because the queen can retake, so I can't weaken the castle. So for example, knight g7, and now queen a4. The idea is attack the queen side. So now the queen is good on a4, because if there isn't the enemy queen on a5, queen a4 is often a very strong move for white. So in general, if the black queen go to a5, my main idea would be block the queen. If the queen goes to h5, my main idea would be bring my queen to a4. So for example, if after h3 the black play bishop e6, I think I can play knight d5, and the queen is not in a good position. If take queen g6, I play queen a4 and attack on the on the king side, or maybe first bishop e3 and only then queen a4. Yes, to defend e4 before to play queen a4. Okay, so this is very important about the variation with the castle queen side for black. So we must distinguish if the queen goes in the queen side or if the queen go in the king side. we can play with two different strategies. Okay, thank you for your attention. And if you enjoyed the video, share it and see you for the next video about this series. Remember to follow me on social networks and share the video with your friends. Thanks!